Please. Einar, I don't want you to be cursed too. The way that I was.
There are stories that entertain you, and then there are stories that change you. Stories that make you rethink everything. Vinland Saga is one of those stories. This time last year, I reviewed Season 1, going into this series expecting something familiar, like a majority of the anime I've talked about here, but walking away with something entirely different. It made me ask questions I didn't expect. What does it really mean to be strong? What's the true cost of violence? And is it even possible to find peace in a world built for conflict? This is a story that's left me speechless more times than I can count. A story that's greatly changed my life. Going into Season 2, I kept hearing and was even told how different it would be, and they weren't exaggerating. There are some fans who believe Season 2 ruined what they liked about this series for them because it didn't have what made the first one so great, which is fair. Season 1 follows the point of view of warriors, those who are Vikings, and the brutality of fighting in a war, whereas Season 2 shifts that perspective, showing us the consequences of those wars, especially for those forced into slavery. The first season represents themes of war, violence, and revenge, and the second represents slavery, forgiveness, and redemption, going from an intense, action-packed revenge story to something much slower paced. And I believe this shift was necessary. Without it, Vinland Saga would have stayed a great action series instead of becoming something deeper. Yukimura took a massive risk with this choice and it works in his favor. For me, Season 2 managed to outclass an already stellar Season 1, and that shift is best seen through its development of Thorfinn Karlseni, the once violent warrior now forced to confront himself.
In all of the days I've lived, nothing good has ever happened to me.
Following the death of Askeladd, the world of Vinland Saga changes drastically. Canute rises to power, and Thorfinn not only fails on his sole goal of over 11 years, but loses his purpose and identity. It hits hard. I genuinely didn't know where he would go from here. My first thought was vengeance on Canute, a new war, a new reason to fight, the cycle of violence continuing, seemingly never ending. Instead, we got something far more profound. Season 2 starts off reminding us of how cruel the world of Vinland Saga is. Introduced to the character of Einar, a character who I quickly connected with, a man who lost everything. His family, his home, his reason to live. Forced into slavery, he is branded, and his freedom is stolen. By showing us the world through Einar's eyes, the story shifts our perspective. We're not following the warrior anymore. We're with the victim. Once bought by Ketil and brought to his farm, he meets the now enslaved Thorfinn, who is extremely different. The man who was once loud and filled with rage, now quiet and completely empty. The attention to detail is incredible. His face completely emotionless, the light gone from his eyes. His responses are short, reduced to one word. He is completely broken. It's very sad to see actually, but it makes sense. He's no longer a warrior. He's a shell of who he used to be. He has no desires. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't even want to live. From what was a man who was vulgar and ruthless, is now terrified and haunted of who he used to be. This, in a lot of ways, whilst tragic, is deserved. You may say Askeladd influenced him into doing those acts. It was Thorfinn who chose to act on them, to kill countless people for selfish reasons. And this is where Yukimura made a brilliant choice, pairing this shell with a character like Einar, a perfect mirror to Thorfinn. Where Thorfinn is empty, Einar is emotional. Where Thorfinn has killed, Einar has suffered. And where Thorfinn has shut down, Einar refuses to. When Ketil's slaves were mocked by some of the guards and Ketil's own son, as Fox tried to intimidate Thorfinn by cutting him down, what Thorfinn says actually makes everyone around him speechless.
Why is it we have to be so afraid of death? Are we only alive because we don't want to die? I wonder.
I can't blame him for feeling like this. Someone who was very young, thrown into violence and lost himself through it all, for him to be saying all of this, asking to die, I can only sigh and nod my head. That is, until this happens. And just like that, everything changes. The very fact his body moved to block Snake's attack means he still wants to live. This instantly made me respect Snake's character. He didn't attack him out of cruelty, he was testing him. Upon hearing how he used to be, Einar understandably tries to kill him. People like Thorfinn were responsible for taking everything away from him after all, but instead, he chose not to.
Nothing good comes from living! You're wrong.
For the first time, Thorfinn is forced to confront what he's actually done. Not as a Viking, not as a true warrior, but as a person who has taken lives, including people just like Einar. As he says, he doesn't get to choose the easy way out. They've both been given a second chance in life and should value it no matter what it is, which honestly is what he needed to hear. Thorfinn's nightmares, his breakdown, the moment he realizes he hasn't lived a single day without hurting someone. It's so simple, yet somehow is some of the most powerful character writing I've seen in anime. This is the moment the story stops being about revenge and becomes about redemption. And it shows the path of redemption is not easy at all. It is much more than just, I learned my lesson so now I'm fixed. It takes an entire lifetime to earn. We see this even more so as the years flow by, as the story begins to truly explore Thorfinn's mind. We understand his subconscious, how he's feeling, what he's thinking, and these two episodes depict that wonderfully. We started off showing Einar and Thorfinn cutting all the trees down. Nice! Seeing them smile after a string of misery warmed my heart. However, once we're at Old Man Kettle's farm, Thorfinn shares something interesting.
I don't hate him. Not anymore. That's what makes this so damn hard.
He feels completely empty, and has ever since Askeladd's death. His need for hatred and revenge is what drove him after all, and even if he did kill him, he still would feel the same way he currently does. And it forces you to ask yourself, even if you succeed in your path of vengeance, or in getting involved with someone, would it really be worth it? I believe Yukimura did a great job with this. This is a good message. It's no surprise for Thorfinn to have these thoughts given what he's been through, and for him to even have them in the first place makes him feel real. He's now wandering through life without any sense of purpose. He doesn't even know why he's in the farm or what he's doing. But then, instead of giving him answers, he's given something better, the chance to find one.
Being empty means anything can fit inside you. And if you want to start anew, empty is the best way to be.
Through Kettle's father, through the farm itself, Thorfinn slowly begins to rebuild. And Einar as well plays an important role in this. He allows Thorfinn to let it all out and to not keep his emotions bottled up, which evidently hasn't worked for Thorfinn in the past. He is the perfect example of how someone can change, in Einar's eyes. This is questioned once more when they return from the old man's farm and see the wheat field they spent years building destroyed. It's devastating. Naturally, when seeing this, Einar is in a fit of rage, which is understandable. Who wouldn't be? Immediately figuring out the retainers were responsible, and he wants to go off and deal with them, which is also understandable. But Thorfinn is different. I really love this back and forth. Einar baffled why he's not even angry at all over what they've spent years working towards. Their freedom has now just been taken away. Thorfinn doesn't want to resort to violence again, not because he can't, but because he's afraid of what it'll turn him back into.
It's not my right to feel anger towards the farmhands in the way that you do. So if you're going to kill those men for digging up our crops, then you might as well take the time to kill me 100 times over.
Hearing this, Einar realizes that their living isn't as great as he thought, and it's brought to a higher degree once he reveals to Thorfinn he knows of Arnheid's situation. And when they confront the retainers, everything snaps. Einar is ready to swing, but before he can, Thorfinn steps in and lands the punch, cracking his jaw. Now personally, I'm not against Thorfinn doing this. Those jerks had it coming. It's ironic. A couple episodes prior, we find out the retainers are no different from the slaves. They act this way to make themselves not feel like slaves. And I actually love this moment for another reason. Thorfinn punching him is not a regression of his character. It's showing just how difficult it is to truly change. And that struggle leads perfectly into the work of art that is episode 9. It's hard to even put into words how powerful this episode was. What I said earlier about being inside Thorfinn's mind, this is where it all comes together. We finally see the nightmare that's been haunting him for years, and it's really impactful. It's incredibly symbolic, a perfect depiction of life and death, love and hatred, peace and war. Thorfinn sees his father Thors again, standing in what appears to be Vinland, and what he says cuts deep.
And then I smell blood.
He is deeply disappointed in him, ashamed of his son for not adhering to the message all the way back in the second episode, you have no enemies. Which is so great that everything finally loops back to the beginning of this series. What makes this hit so hard is that Thorfinn forgot his father even said this. He forgot about him for the most part actually, and whilst everything with Thors is incredibly necessary, it's the next part of this dream that enthralls me.
Hey,
Long time no see.
As Thorfinn falls down from a hole dug up by his past victims, we see Valhalla for the first time. A place that is often described to be a Viking's paradise, but to Thorfinn, it's the literal depiction of hell, and Mappa does an amazing job at showing how brutally harsh it is. And at the bottom, he is met with the man he once hated. What stands out most about this whole scene is just how human Thorfinn feels. What Askeladd says really hits the nail on the head, and is what actually forces him to grow. For the first time, Thorfinn doesn't argue back or even insult him. All he can say is,
I'm so sorry.
This is a very human response to a circumstance like this. And Askeladd, for the first time, looks regretful, because he knows he's the one who brought Thorfinn into this world. I love this whole sequence because these are two important people, father figures for the main character, displaying two different sides to Thorfinn, what he used to be and what he's aiming to become. And now both sides are working together in guiding him forward.
It's time to fight your real battle now!
Telling him to climb, to keep moving forward, to carry the weight of those lives he took instead of running from them. Finally, Thorfinn wakes up and something is different. After the wake-up call he needed, he reflects on his sins and finally acknowledges them. He can't undo what he's done, but he can choose what he does next. He swears, no more violence, wanting to make amends, wanting to atone. This is the first step into his growth, from a brutal murderer filled with rage to a pacifist not wanting to even consider violence as an option. Finally understanding the weight behind his dad's words. Once Pater delivers much-deserved punishments to those scumbags, we see Thorfinn and Einar back at the old man's farm, and the former warrior has a different feel about him. His eyes that were once empty and filled with dread now have some light of purpose. Thorfinn is now reborn. Yukimura is an absolute mad lad for all this. It's already at this point I'm preferring this arc over the last. And believe it or not, I've merely scratched the surface. I thought it was already outstanding up until this point, but I was not ready for what I was about to witness. We'll come back to these two later on, because there's another character who also goes through considerable change. The other side of the coin, the other main character, Canute. There are a lot of similarities between them, yet their paths are so different. Thorfinn is moving towards redemption, whereas Canute is slowly losing himself. One inspired by his father, the other is haunted by his. One is aiming for peace, the other is aiming for power. Even after Sweyn's death, he's still referred to as Prince Canute, as England goes through a massive power struggle involving him, his brother, and Ethelred, causing multiple wars. Canute always wanted to build peace in the world, but trauma and war forged him into something terrifying. He decides if God can't save humanity from suffering, he would, even if it means forcing it into existence. Using violence as a tool to spread his message, unite everyone under his rule, and carve out a world of peace. His power only continues to grow through dirty tactics, eliminating anyone who stands in his way, including his own brother. Despite everything he does, it's hard to call him a bad person. To me, Canute is how he is by trauma. He had to endure so much during season 1, and this is him dealing with the aftershock. Attacking villages to deliver messages, wanting to claim all farms for wealth, poisoning rulers. None of these are acts of good, but as a king, he needs to save face and uphold the message. The crown on his head is heavy. And speaking of, after tricking Ketil and his son Olmar embarrassing himself in front of them, he uses this as a chance to frame them for going against them, justifying taking their farm, which leads to a war between Ketil and Canute. Another testament to Yukimura's writing. Every subplot this season connects. The side characters in this season are extremely well handled and even better than the first. They're much more memorable, but I feel that's the point. They each add necessary presence which aids this arc. Ketil's family, the farmers, and members of Canute's army all stick with me. But there are two in particular that completely broke me. Gardar and Arnheid. Those episodes were rough. Yukimura genuinely wanted to make me feel dreadful. It's with this story we see how depressing living as a slave truly is. Arnheid is a character we've seen quite a lot up until this point, but knew nothing about her. And when her story is revealed, my goodness, it hit me really hard. Yukimura came out to say he struggled to write her story, and I believe him because it was hard to watch. Loses her baby, her husband, forced into slavery, and still chooses to see the bright side of it all. And as for her husband Gardar, he's also made into a slave due to his greed. And well, his circumstance is what you'd expect. Where Arnheid holds on to her humanity, Gardar loses his. He starts off as someone loving, someone kind, but slavery, desperation and guilt completely break him. By the time we see him again, he's violent, unstable, and driven purely by survival. And honestly, I couldn't even blame him. Once he kills his masters and flees, he seeks to reunite and rescue Arnheid at Ketil's farm, but is fatally injured by Snake and his men. However, Thorfinn, Einar, and the old man, who already lived through a storm, chooses to aid in helping Arnheid chase her freedom. I liked a lot about this whole section. The characters move in very believable ways. Einar, despite having feelings for Arnheid, chooses to set her free because it's the right thing to do. Thorfinn, whilst fighting off Snake, is conflicted. He doesn't want to resort to violence again, but Askeladd in his subconscious once more tells Thorfinn fighting to protect someone else is noble. And Arnheid, despite now being afraid of the man her husband turned out to be, chooses to go with him to raise their unborn child. And when they finally escaped their grasp, I was happy. A glimpse of hope shined and they were on their way. I was hoping and praying they would get away, and it seemed like they would. But once again, we get a cruel reminder of how this world works. Gardar's life flashes before our eyes as he slowly walks to his death. This was painful to watch. I actually shed many tears seeing how events shaped and changed him as hope turned into despair. Their whole story is a tragedy. For Gardar, his death brings peace. He's finally reunited with his son. For Arnheid, this is just another person she lost.
That's right. You are home now.
And the worst part is, this isn't even the end of it. Once Ketil returns, warning everyone of Canute's arrival, he catches wind of what happened and walks up to her and he... After finding out what happened, he proceeds to brutally beat her and doesn't stop even after finding out she's pregnant with his child. Up until this point in the video, I've held off on my thoughts on this character for this particular moment, as up until this point watching, I wasn't sure on how to feel about him. I know now that I absolutely despise this character. There are people online who defend his actions and it baffles me how they could. First off, no matter how you put it, whether it's considered fair he gave Thorfinn and Einar a chance to work for their freedom, he's still a slave owner. That alone says enough. Once Arnheid was revealed to be Ketil's sex slave, I immediately knew he had no intentions of giving her freedom. We even see hints of this from his own father, Pater urging Leif to take her away, and even through Snake later on. There's nothing to like about him. And honestly, part of me wishes Canute had arrived sooner. Because of his lies, he not only put his own farm in jeopardy, but a majority of his men die, foolishly going into battle with the king's army believing they stood a chance. Iron Fist Ketil is nothing more than a facade and Snake knows it. Arnheid is now at death's door, and this hit like a ton of bricks. This was another death that really hit my heart, even more than Gardar's passing actually, because whilst Gardar was happy, Arnheid was completely empty, and all for good reason. She loses another child of hers, and now has nothing left to live for. Nobody, no family. All throughout, she has easily been the most tragic character in this entire series. Her story is an unflinching look at the horrors of slavery and the way it destroys everyone it touches. She is trapped with no rights, her entire life subject to the whims of the men who own her. In her final breath, she yearns for a place free of slavery and war, with her loved ones waiting for her. I had no words. But what stood out to me the most was Thorfinn. He has become more like his father, doing the exact same chest compression tactic Thor's used in the very first episode on the slave, and by her deathbed, instead of promising her vengeance, he echoes something familiar.
Far off to the west, far across the sea, there lies a special land, a land called Vinland. It's warm there, all year round with beautiful green lands, a place so distant, even the flames of war and slave traders cannot reach you there. And I believe that's where you can live a life free of agony. Arnheid, let's travel there. We'll go together. to Vinland.
It's an incredible moment. Thorfinn is finally able to use his father's words to bring comfort and hope to someone else. And even stopping Einar from wanting to kill Kettle, though I wouldn't have minded him doing so, just saying. The string of episodes where the tears kept flowing. Though rough, I felt this was absolutely necessary to get the show's message across. Arnheid represents the true human cost of the Viking world. She's not a king or a warrior. She is one of the countless victims of the endless cycles of violence. Someone who just wanted peace. She was the beating heart of this season and the catalyst for what comes next. If season 1 shows you the thrill of war, this is where Vinland Saga shows you the cost of it. Let's go back to the battle at Kettle's farm. It's just horrible. Yukimura and Mappa did a great job showing just how awful it is. We see two different sides of it from two key characters here. Both of Kettle's sons, Thorgil and Olmar. They both have had crucial moments scattered around, but it's here where they both are prominent. They also represent the good and bad of this world. Thorgil is a brute, thrives in battle and enjoys the chaos. Not like Thorkel, who enjoys fighting for Viking honor, Thorgil loves the brutality. The violent, gruesome bloodbath is what excites him. In any other show, he'd be the cool one, but here, he's very unsettling. He's not stupid, he's very aware of what he is doing. A harrowing reminder of why said violence is wrong in the first place. And here it shows that he's the only one who seemed to have enjoyment in it, wanting to go straight for the king's head and urging his own brother to follow in the footsteps. Speaking of, Olmar is a character I gratefully enjoy. His development is amazing because he starts out wanting to be like his brother, wanting to wield a sword and become a warrior. In a lot of ways, he's just like Thorfinn, chasing this idea of what strength is supposed to look like, but the moment he's actually forced into that reality, it completely breaks him. That moment where Olmar is forced to kill someone is when it clicks. You see the fear, the regret, the realization that this warrior life isn't something to admire. It's something that destroys you.
I surrender.
And that decision right there, that's his turning point. He finally accepts his weaknesses, accepts who he is, and chooses to live, letting go of this illusion of strength. And that takes more courage than anything any character has done this entire arc. Just like his grandfather says, in sacrifice of the farm, he finally becomes a man. And I have to say, he is more of a man than both his father and brother are combined. Anyways, back to the main squad. After witnessing Arnheid's death, it solidifies who Thorfinn wants to become. After everything he's seen, everything he's lost, he finally understands. Violence doesn't solve anything. It just creates more pain. And instead of continuing that cycle, he chooses to end it. Thorfinn decides to go speak with Canute in hopes to prevent more deaths. And what he says to Leif left me speechless.
You used to tell me a long time ago that our ancestors fled. They escaped war, and in doing so, found Iceland a more peaceful place. You know, back then, I thought it was embarrassing, but now, I'm proud of our people.
Never have I felt pride for a fictional character as much as I did at this moment. Thorfinn's development doesn't feel like I'm watching another anime character progress. It feels like I'm watching a real person grow. I guess part of that is due in fact that Thorfinn Karlseni was a real person. His response to Leif is that of a man. As he states, he'll return home alive. And then it happens.
Withstand 100 blows, and you're the winner. But if you lose, then your life is over, understand?
Very well then.
This entire episode was a work of art. He's walking into the enemy's camp unarmed. And when he gets there, the tension is immediate. Thorfinn agrees to a bet after being mocked by Canute's army that if he can withstand 100 punches to the face, he'd be permitted to talk with the king. And this is a complete boss moment from Thorfinn. No hesitation, no wavering his words. He stands tall, tanking each punch, wanting to repay the farm that gave him a second chance, not wanting to fight back. This is Thorfinn proving to Canute, his retainers, and to himself that he's done with violence. And there is a way to resolve matters without drawing your swords. This isn't weakness. This is true strength.
Hurry up! I don't have all day! I have
people waiting! Let's finish this!
What started as laughter and mockery from the crowd turned into shock, awe, and silence. With each punch, Drott's respect grows stronger, his final one symbolizing admission of defeat and respect. And even when asked by Welf why he didn't fight back, what he says is what they had to take seriously. He doesn't speak with malice or anger, but with peace and kindness.
The only people that should be fighting are Ketil and King Canute. The leaders should be playing Nefertafel, not us. We should be the ones settling their quarrel. Because there's absolutely no reason for this many people to shed their blood. It shouldn't be us. We've just met each other. And that means no one here is my enemy.
Here it comes, the line we all wanted him to say.
Because I have no enemies.
One of the few moments I felt chills. What an incredibly powerful moment. In fact, there aren't enough words to praise this. We've seen everything this character has gone through the past 2 seasons. This moment doesn't feel random, it's earned. He finally understands what Thor's meant. In this moment, Thorfinn finally becomes a true warrior. And watching this caused me to pause, take a step back and reflect, to really look within myself and ask myself what true peace looks like. Much like anyone, I've had conflicts arise around me where reaction only worsens it. This impacted me so much that if I truly chose not to do so, to not give in to rage, to choose a peaceful resolution, would I have felt better from it? When Thorfinn uttered those 4 short words, I couldn't help but smile. He's now granted permission, and we get what this entire season was building towards. Thorfinn, Canute, finally cross paths.
You've managed to stay alive. It's been a while, Thorfinn.
Immediately it's tense. You really get to see how different they both are.
A long while.
Despite coming from 2 completely different worlds, there's one thing or one person that ties them together. Askeladd. Some may believe for the worse, but I'd argue the opposite. It is clear Askeladd cared for the 2, even if his methods were questionable. Killing both of Canute's father figures and wanting Canute to kill him, stepping up as a leader and building courage. And in his final moments, he chose not to tell Thorfinn the truth about his father's execution to allow him to move on finally. And now we see the effects of this.
And I'm very sorry for cutting your face with a knife.
Here we get 3 important perspectives. One of royalty, one as a former Viking, one as a victim of both worlds. And they all make very good points. Thorfinn tries to reason with Canute to leave the farm, but refuses. Then asked if he still intends to make a paradise for those suffering, he responds by recreating a very historical moment.
And now, in the name of your Emperor Canute, almighty waves, calm your fury!
After making a point of how powerless he is, he tells us his true desire. Canute wants to go against God in creating a paradise, to save the Vikings. Much like Thorfinn, he surprised me. My first thought when he said this was, huh? Save the Vikings? Aren't they the ones causing this whole mess? However, Canute makes a great point. Despite their sins, they are still human who never knew peace. But as Einar points out, there's a flaw with this. Those who aren't Vikings would still suffer. Honestly, Yukimura made a really great choice adding Einar to this dialogue. Nothing he says feels out of place, and it ties all the themes this arc was telling the viewers through him. This isn't a simple good versus evil debate. Both Thorfinn and Canute make great, reasonable points where truthfully, there's no one in the wrong here.
You should kill him. That man is very dangerous. A rampage caused by even one sheep will lead the entire herd astray and over a cliff.
Failing to plead with the king, Thorfinn has to come up with another plan. And it surprised me what that was.
Run away.
Somehow, this was the best thing he could have said. It even throws Canute off his days. Baffled by what he says, he laughs, claiming he's never had someone negotiate peace with him in such a manner. For the first time in a while, Canute finally sees things clearly and he sees a once ruthless Viking in Thorfinn change. People can change after all. I can't emphasize how beautiful this all really is. For how much build-up we've seen over the course, this entire back and forth pays off incredibly well. Once come to his senses, he realizes that they both want the same goal: peace. Canute aims to fix this world, Thorfinn aims to create a new one for those unaffected by Canute's power. They are not each other's enemy, but allies. With that, Canute leaves the farm and abolishes his plan to take over all the farms, refusing to get in Thorfinn's way. Now becoming a king, people no longer fear, but love and cherish. Finally freed from the ghost of his father. I very much look forward to seeing where Canute goes from here, but if Yukimura chose for this to be the last we see of him, that'd be okay. It feels like his story is complete. I loved this entire moment, and what comes next is just as powerful. After the events of the farm, Thorfinn and Einar finds themselves in the gravesite, looking back upon everything. They're both not slaves anymore, but it came at a huge cost. Einar lost everyone he ever cared for. Thorfinn went to hell and back. Ketil's farm shaped these two in very significant ways. They both hold regret over not telling Arnheid to live on. How could they, right? Her passing did one final thing: give Thorfinn purpose. Make him realize what his true fight really is. He decides something grand, for the both of them, for both his father figures, for all the people who suffer, the people he's killed. For Arnheid, he makes a declaration.
I want a world where she could have found the peace she was looking for. A world where I can say to everyone that death isn't the only way to be saved. That there is a place here on Earth. A place that is more appealing than death. I must show them!
The same person who once said nothing good ever happened to him is now talking about creating a place where people can actually be free.
It must exist. It has to. That's what I believe. And if it doesn't, we'll build it. We have to.
No slavery, no war. I wouldn't even say Thorfinn became like his father Thor's. He surpassed him in some ways. For what Thorfinn and Einar have both gone through, this is the path most deserving for them. And this moment is the most defining moment of the entire farmland arc for me.
For Arnheid.
For Arnheid.
It's time to leave the farm, and we wrap things up nicely. Olmar states he wants to be just like Thorfinn, a kind, peaceful man, and honestly, I believe that's the right path for him. Patir promises to look after Arnheid's gravesite, but here's what got me. One simple moment that actually made me shed a tear.
Thorfinn! Einar! Gotta tell you my name, it's Rold! Son of Grim! My real name's Rold!
Man, this was an incredible season. Yukimura does something spectacular with his dialogue. The fact that I felt this way from a character like Snake, who's been in the background for a majority, is unexpected. This one reveal says a lot on how much respect he has gained for the two without needing a huge emphasis. Peak! Season 2 works as well as it does because Season 1 happened. It was a story about how even though life throws unimaginably hardships your way, if you believe and choose to have hope, you'll be able to pick yourself up and come out wiser, stronger, and better than you were before. This farm took two broken people and gave them a chance to rebuild, challenging them in every possible manner, allowing them to be reborn together. And upon leaving, we get a montage of how each character in that farm has changed for the better because of their influence. Even the worst person can change. And the cherry on top? After 16 years, Thorfinn finally returns home. And this is just wholesome.
Mother, I'm so sorry for everything.
I've missed you dearly. Thorfinn.
Personally for me, this is what I wanted the most. I know for a fact that not once since Thor's death did he ever think about his family in Iceland. He may have forgotten them even, so this moment was needed. And once Helga, Leif and everyone hears of his plan, he's only met with their support and blessing. So now that we've reached the end of the season, we know where we're going next. Now that Thorfinn has lived in both worlds of Norse times, he is now ready to find Vinland. Finishing this season, there are two questions that play in my mind. The first one obviously being, when is season 3? And the second, how have I not experienced this series before? Vinland Saga is an incredible story. Compared to other anime I've seen, there are few that have made me look within myself and want to start again. And I'm glad to say this series was certainly one of them. At the time I'm writing this, it's been a few months, close to a year, since I have finished this anime. And it's the one that has stuck on my mind the most. Its messages were powerful and forced you to ask yourself these questions. What does it mean to truly hate someone? Should I forgive? Can I be a better version of myself? Can I be reborn? We can all put ourselves into Thorfinn's shoes. We've all had people in our lives who've wronged us, reacted in ways we shouldn't have, done things we've regretted, some of which we're still haunted by, felt lost and empty, only to come out stronger and have a better idea of who you are. Thorfinn is us, and that's why his growth was inspiring. I watched a young boy grow into a man. There have been moments in my life where I gave in to anger, and I regret it. And since finishing 10 months ago, I try to follow that same path, to live freely. I know I'll look back on this and will be kicking myself for not expanding on another aspect of this tale, but I suppose that's the joy of consuming media. It impacts you in ways unfamiliar and allows you to appreciate things over time. Vinland Saga was a show I needed to watch. Yukimura's work has genuinely changed my life. You'll always be in situations where you'll be tested, and it will be difficult. Your anger may make decisions instead of you, and if someone reacts with anger constantly, it eventually loses its weight. People stop hearing the message and only see the reaction. Sometimes, choosing to remain silent is more powerful than reacting. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you have the strength to control what doesn't deserve your energy. It means you're observing, remembering, and choosing your moment. Disciplined enough to not argue with noise, and to know when exactly to speak when it matters. Peace is much more gratifying than proving a point. You can let go of hatred, of the past. You can forgive others and yourself. You can change and move forward because you have no enemies. There is no one worth hurting.